Hello? You might be asking yourself a question of why have I come to the side of a busy road where the sound quality is often interrupted and almost impossible to record it. Along with all sorts of other things, we're going to Hello. I've decided to do a few episodes about whiskey because a friend of mine, Art, went through a stage of sending me TikToks where people talked about whiskey and a lot of them didn't know what they were talking about. And I think I do. I used to do a whiskey podcast. It came out every week. It was UK based and I'd interview people who made whiskey. I'd talk about all sorts of aspects about whiskey. It was almost a full-time job, and quite a lot of people listened to it. And that was back in the days when it was the most popular UK-based weekly podcast about whiskey. Back in the days when it was actually the only UK-based weekly whiskey podcast. Podcasts were still quite new. You might be asking yourself a question of why have I come to the side of a busy road where the sound quality is often interrupted and almost impossible to record it. And that's because of what's behind me, a field, a ploughed field that's going to grow crops. That is where whiskey really starts for me. It starts from the ground. It's based in nature. It's modified by people, by craft, by science, but this is where it starts. Now historically, nobody's really too sure where it started. We know it's somewhere 14th, 15th century. Interruption. We know that it has links to the spice route, the silk route, all sorts of other routes that carried the process of distilling alcohol all around the world. But when that actually became whiskey as we know it, that's something that's up for debate. What I can tell you is it's deep in the culture of many countries, especially Ireland and Scotland. Which one came first, Ireland or Scotland? Again, some people will debate that. You'd have to look at the records of distilleries like Kilbeggan, Bushmills, Glenturret, Little Mill, but also look for interest at other places like Glenlivet. It's a subject that's steeped in history. For me, whiskey first came into my life when I was very young, primary school age. I remember it clearly. It was Christmas time and I was at my auntie and uncle's house. My uncle had a glass of something special, something he called Whisky Mac, and I was a curious boy and he let me try it. It was disgusting. It burnt my mouth. It choked my throat. It is a mixture of whiskey and ginger. And to this day, I've not liked ginger, but an interest in whiskey remained. Whiskey is a strange substance. It's something that I've been very passionate about, but it's also something you have to be very careful about. There is a danger to whiskey. Whiskey can pull you into dark places. It can hold you up when you don't really need to be held up. It can give you that false courage to go forward when really you need to be going backwards. You can drown in its splendour. You do have to be careful with whiskey at a level far higher than those little warnings that are often hidden on the bottle. Unfortunately, I've seen quite a lot of people suffer the effects of drinking too much or drinking in the wrong way. And on a mild level, there are people who could get so much pleasure from whiskey but don't even know about it because of an early experience they've had that's put them off of it for the rest of their lives. And that is a shame. So I'm going to put out a series of short YouTubes about whiskey. Really, that's the basic stuff. How to taste whiskey, but we want to taste it. So we're going to listen to it. We're going to pour ourselves out a good measure. What's whiskey made from? And let's not underestimate the effects of weather, the wind bashing in. What to drink whiskey out of? Official tasting glass or thistle glass with the stem. Now this one's far more delicate. The importance of making notes to actually making my own, getting my own printed. Whiskey tasting notes. This is volume 3. And that contentious subject, should you add water to whiskey? And if you're going to, how? These substances have another problem. They are in competition with each other for space. This is the beginning, the basics. If you have any suggestions of things you're interested in, please leave it in the comments. But more importantly, I want to share some of my passion and my interest in whiskey that is so great that it causes me to humiliate myself on the side of a busy road talking to a camera.